Welcome to the deep dive. So today we have something pretty unique for our source material.
Yeah, it's different. We usually have papers, articles.
Yeah. This time we're working with a direct transcript from a very intense personal somatic session. Think of it like high-level body work that starts physical and then pretty quickly goes deep into philosophy.
It's a fascinating document. And our mission really is to look past just the physical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We want to dissect that connection between a physical practice, muscle tension, pain, and this key idea of yielding, and how that ties into accelerated learning.
And even self-awareness.
And radical self-awareness, yeah. We're sort of tracking how mastering the body becomes a shortcut to psychological insight.
Okay, so let's set the stage. We're going to explore some really interesting paradoxes today. Things like why pain might actually be a teacher, not an enemy. And how you can learn faster by, believe it or not naming what you're learning. And ultimately, how mastering your attention is maybe the highest skill of all. So get ready to rethink what resistance means.
Yeah.
So the session kicks off with the person talking about their approach to movement. They say they practice yoga maybe just once a week, formally.
Right, but they adapt it every day.
Exactly. And they have this big realization, this kind of simplifying thought. It's all just movement.
And that statement, as simple as it sounds, it's the key that unlocks everything else. It takes the practice out of a box.
It democratizes it.
It does. It removes the ritual, the labels, and just lets the body learn. And if all movement is just movement, then learning itself, as they point out, becomes nonlinear.
It happens in parallel. I love that idea because we're so used to thinking, step A, then step B, then C. But this suggests that all these different learning tracks, physical, emotional, are running at the same time.
And they're informing each other constantly, outside of any rigid structure. Which brings us to, I think, the most critical insight for speeding things up.
Which is?
The idea that you have to refrain from naming what I'm learning. They call it kind of unsupervised learning.
Okay, but our brains are wired to name things. We label everything. So what is happening cognitively when you successfully stop yourself from doing that?
You're bypassing the intellectual brain. I mean, the moment we name something, that's my hamstring, that's tension, we're pulled out of the direct experience.
You're in your head.
You're in your head, exactly. You're in an anatomy class. The goal here is to feel the texture of the experience. Just the raw sensory data, the feeling of a yield and a stretch without the words.
So the act of naming it creates a kind of distance from the feeling itself?
It absolutely does.
And if you can just let that raw sensory input wash over you, the body's intelligence absorbs it directly and the whole process just speeds up.
It's a huge trust fall with your own nervous system. You're choosing being in the experience over knowing about it. And that freedom, that's what accelerates everything.
That focus on raw sensation, it brings us right to the core of this transcript, doesn't it? The whole idea of the transformative power of yielding.
Yeah, and it comes from this incredibly powerful personal story. After breaking a leg, and before that injury, their relationship with pain was, it was normal. It was primate.
What do you mean by that?
The pattern was simple. Feel pain, retreat, run. That's the normal primate reaction. It's your amygdala just screaming, run, hide, freeze.
But with that kind of injury, the pain was unrelenting. You can't run from it.
There was, as they put it, nowhere to go. The retreat mechanism completely fails. So the only path left wasn't out. It was
in.
It was in, to actively soften and yield to the pain itself.
That's the moment right there, the turning point.
It's a conscious override of our deepest survival programming. And what they discovered by doing that, it's incredible. They said that by yielding, something was removed, and that allowed them to see what I couldn't see before.
So what was removed? The pain?
No, not the pain, the resistance. The resistance was like a screen blocking the view.
Okay.
And once that screen of resistance was gone, the pain wasn't just a threat anymore. It revealed, and this is the quote, a whole other field of sensations that were always there.
But they were just obscured by the fight.
Totally obscured. The pain, when you look at it without resistance, is just information. It's pure data about what's happening in your body.
Hold on, isn't that dangerous? I mean, pain is a safety signal. If we just start treating it as information, aren't we at risk of ignoring a real warning sign?
That's the crucial distinction.
Yeah.
Yielding isn't ignoring. It's investigating the signal without the panic.
Right.
The initial resistance, that's the panic. That's the amygdala. The conscious choice to yield is this highly skilled move that says, okay, I hear the alarm, but I'm going to choose my response. And it gets easier over time because you learn what's on the other side.
You learn that the sensation itself won't destroy you.
Exactly. So you start to consciously run toward the sensation, not away from it. Mm-hmm. And that rewires everything.
And you see this applied in the actual session, too.
Absolutely. The guide in the session says they have to respect the body. If it's protected or afraid of too much pressure, you back off.
Otherwise, the body won't trust me.
You can't violate that trust. If you do, you just reinforce the need for resistance. You have to work with where the body is right now.
Okay, so once you build that trust inside your own body, this new consciousness, this ability to open to the world, whatever it brings, it starts to ripple outward, right?
It has to. And we get that perfect, specific example, the Christmas tree.
Yeah, I love that part.
It's such a great metaphor for the change. They talk about seeing this huge lit-up tree at an outdoor mall, something they'd seen every year. But this time was different.
Because the past self was gone.
The past self would not have gazed.
What's the real difference between just looking at something and gazing?
It's about trained attention. To gaze is to rest one's attention on something. There's no agenda, no processing, no thinking about what's next. The past self was just constantly distracted, always pulled away from the now. The current self has the stillness, the training from yoga and meditation to just be with the tree.
So learning to yield to physical pain is the same skill you use to sustain your attention on something beautiful.
It's the exact same mechanism, just a different input. You metabolize the internal noise, and that frees up your energy to just observe. And that path, that pursuit of sustained attention, leads to what the transcript calls the most delicious thing you can pursue.
The journey of perfecting something.
And that journey leads you to realize your true nature.
That's a huge claim. How does perfecting a practice lead to realizing your true nature?
Because the journey forces you to deal with your former self. The transcript says that former self created suffering by making up all these rigid ideas about who he was.
Ideas that are ultimately irrelevant.
Exactly. You can't perfect a practice if you're clinging to all these old fear-based stories about yourself.
So you're not trying to, kill your old self?
No, absolutely not. It's not about trying to extricate the past. It's about allowing that former self to be part of our story.
A story you hold lightly.
A story you hold lightly, one that's always being edited. The big psychological shift is realizing we could be the agent to bring about the change. You're not a victim of your history. You're the architect of your present.
If we pull back for a second, it seems like all of this, investigating pain, gazing at a tree, rewriting your story, it all rests on one single foundational skill.
Concentration. 100%. It's called the basis of the all-day spiritual practice. It's what gives you the power of attention you need to override the primate brain.
Without that, yielding is impossible.
You can't do it. You'll just get swept away by instinct.
And it's that concentration that lets you get into what we call flow.
That's the prize.
Yeah.
The whole journey is about metabolizing those things that get in the way of flow. You're just clearing the path.
So flow can happen with less obstruction.
And when it does, you have more energy and, crucially, way more self-awareness.
Now, they also mentioned some physical tools that help with this. Pilates was one.
Yeah, for core strength, to support the whole structure. And also the daily use of an infrared sauna.
Right, an infrared song, as it's written in the transcript.
Which they said changed my life. Yeah. It shows a recognition that the body isn't just a vehicle for this work. It's an active partner that needs care and recovery.
Okay, so let's talk about the recording itself. This whole thing exists because the session was transcribed, and they talk about using future tech, like AI, to analyze this stuff. Yeah. Why is that visualization so important?
Because the mind is a parable historian. It edits everything. The idea with these future tools, like imagine seeing your real-time data on a screen or querying all your past sessions, is to remove that ambiguity.
So you can see the pattern.
You can see the patterns.
Yes.
You can track your progress. These tools help you define what you believe in and what you think based on actual evidence, not just a fuzzy memory.
It makes the intangible tangible. It gives you data on your own transformation.
Which reinforces the belief that you are the agent of change. And that belief speeds the whole process up. It's a feedback loop. Mm-hmm. So to kind of pull all these threads together, what we're seeing is that yielding is not weakness. It's not passive. It's an active, very powerful skill for speeding up learning and getting access to this this deeper level of consciousness.
It's about consciously choosing to override that primal instinct to run away from discomfort.
Right. And when you do that, you unlock this whole landscape of physical and psychological that was there all along, just hidden.
That's a huge shift in perspective. It really changes the entire meaning of resistance in our lives. And to leave you with one final thought, something that really stuck with me from the transcript, the person said, "It's really unfortunate that most of us, I don't think, know how to indulge in sensations."
Wow.
So we'd like to leave you with that to think about. What resistance are you holding on to today? Maybe it's an old story about who you are, or just a tight shoulder or a mental habit. What's stopping you from yielding? Because learning how to stop fighting and instead indulge in sensations, that might be the very thing that unlocks a whole new terrain in your own experience. Maybe consider, just for a moment, where you might be running away from the very information you need most.